When a humble nun discovers a secret letter hidden by the Pope himself, a letter filled with dark prophecies and chilling warnings, her entire world shatters in an instant. Hunted by those she once trusted, she must flee into the unknown, carrying a truth so dangerous it could save or doom the world. Sister Isabella had always lived a quiet, disciplined life within the stone walls of St. Benedict's convent. Her days were filled with prayer, study, and simple duties, and she found comfort in the rhythm of her existence. The news that Pope Adrian himself would be visiting their remote convent had sent waves of excitement and anxiety through the sisters. Such an event was unheard of. For days, the convent buzzed with preparations, and Sister Isabella, though shy by nature, worked tirelessly alongside the others. The Pope's visit was brief, but deeply moving. He gave a heartfelt speech to the sisters, speaking of faith, endurance, and unseen battles of the spirit. His voice was warm yet tired, as if carrying the weight of untold sorrows. Then, just as suddenly as he had arrived, he was gone, leaving behind an atmosphere of awe and a lingering sense of mystery. It was 3 days after his departure that Sister Isabella found the letter. She had been assigned the task of cleaning the small chapel that the Pope had used for private prayer. As she knelt by the altar, polishing the brass candlesticks, her hand brushed against a folded piece of parchment tucked into a hidden crevice in the wooden altar. Curious, she gently pulled it free. Her heart quickened as she recognized the papal seal, still unbroken. Her first instinct was to report it to Mother Superior. But something stronger, an inexplicable pull, made her hesitate. With trembling hands, she carefully opened the letter. The parchment was old, the ink slightly faded, but the words were unmistakably fresh, written in a firm but hurried hand. "My dear children of faith," the letter began. "If you are reading this, it means I have already left this world, either in body or spirit. There are truths I have carried, truths too heavy for one man, truths hidden from even those closest to God." Sister Isabella's hands shook as she continued reading. The letter spoke of visions, dark, apocalyptic visions, that the Pope had experienced for months. In these visions, he saw the world crumbling under deceit, power, and a great evil rising from within the Church itself. He spoke of a betrayal so profound that it would shake the very foundations of faith. He named no names, but hinted at those in the highest ranks, cloaked in holiness yet serving darkness. The final lines of the letter blurred before her eyes. "There is one among you who bears the mark unknowingly. She is the key to either salvation or destruction. Find her before it is too late." Sister Isabella's breath caught in her throat. A piercing pain shot through her chest, and the world spun violently. The letter slipped from her fingers as a wave of dizziness overcame her. She barely had time to grasp the edge of the altar before everything went black, and she collapsed onto the cold stone floor. When she awoke, the chapel was dark except for a few flickering candles. The letter was gone. For a long moment, she lay still, trying to remember if what she had seen was real or a terrible dream. But the terror that clutched her heart told her it had been real, too real. She struggled to sit up, her mind racing with questions. Who was the one bearing the mark? What did it mean for the convent, for the world? Voices echoed faintly from the corridor outside. Sister Isabella staggered to her feet, pressing herself against the wall. She could hear hurried footsteps, whispers, and a name being spoken, her name. Fear rooted her to the spot. Had someone seen her find the letter? Did they know what she had read? Or worse, were they coming for her? She needed to think, to pray, to find someone she could trust. But the convent that had always felt like a sanctuary now seemed shadowed by hidden threats. Every familiar face could be a mask. Every comforting word could be a lie. Clutching the small wooden crucifix around her neck, Sister Isabella made a silent vow. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Even if it meant confronting the evil hidden in the holiest of places. Even if it meant questioning everything she had ever believed. She slipped silently out of the chapel, blending into the shadows, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She didn't know where to begin. She only knew one thing. She was no longer safe and... Sister Isabella moved swiftly, but quietly through the dim corridors of the convent. The faces she passed in the shadows blurred together, familiar yet now filled with doubt. Every creak of the wooden floors made her heart race faster. She didn't know who she could trust anymore. The Pope's warning echoed endlessly in her mind. There is one among you who bears the mark unknowingly. She slipped into the old library, a place few sisters visited after dark. Dusty tomes and forgotten scrolls lined the heavy shelves. In the faint light of a candle, she found an alcove hidden behind thick velvet curtains. She pressed herself into the small space, trying to steady her breathing, her thoughts spinning wildly. Was the marked one truly among them? Or was it her? Had the Pope somehow meant her? Sister Isabella closed her eyes and clutched her crucifix harder. She prayed for strength, for clarity, but no divine answer came. Only silence, heavy and unsettling. Suddenly, footsteps entered the library. She held her breath, peeking through a small gap in the curtain. Two figures stood near the entrance, Mother Superior and Father Matthias, the convent's confessor. Their voices were hushed but urgent. She must not leave the convent, Mother Superior whispered, her voice edged with fear. If she tells anyone about the letter, it could unravel everything. Calm yourself, Father Matthias replied coldly. We must find her and retrieve the letter. She cannot possibly understand the consequences. Sister Isabella's heart dropped. They knew about the letter. Worse, they saw her not as a soul to protect, but as a threat to eliminate. She realized then that the darkness the Pope had written about wasn't just coming, it was already here, within the very walls of St. Benedict's. She had to leave. Carefully, quietly, she slipped out of her hiding place and made her way to the back entrance of the convent, where the old garden gate led out to the woods beyond. The gate was rarely used, the rusted lock easily broken with a strong pull. She didn't stop to think. She ran, her bare feet cold against the earth, the night air sharp in her lungs. The forest swallowed her whole, its towering trees casting deep shadows under the pale moonlight. Twigs snapped under her feet, and every sound seemed amplified in the heavy silence. But she didn't dare slow down. Only when she was certain she was deep enough into the woods did she finally stop to catch her breath. Falling to her knees, she wept, not out of fear, but heartbreak. Her whole life had been built on trust in the church, in her sisters, in the sanctity of their mission. Now, that foundation was shattered, leaving her adrift in a world she barely recognized. God, she whispered into the night, what am I to do? A soft voice answered her, not from the heavens, but from the darkness ahead. You are to finish what he started. Startled, she looked up. An old woman, dressed in plain robes, stepped out from the shadows. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes burned with a fierce light. Around her neck hung a pendant, the same symbol Sister Isabella had seen in the Pope's private chapel, a cross entwined with a serpent. Who are you? Isabella asked, fear creeping into her voice. I was once like you, the woman said, a servant of faith, betrayed by those sworn to protect it. Pope Adrian entrusted me with a mission before he passed, to find the one he saw in his visions. The one bearing the mark? Isabella whispered. The woman nodded. And it is you, child. No. Isabella shook her head. There must be some mistake. I am no savior. I am nothing. You are more than you know, the woman said gently. The mark he spoke of is not of evil. It is a gift, a light meant to expose the darkness. That is why they fear you. That is why they will try to silence you. Tears filled Isabella's eyes again, but this time, they were not tears of despair. A strange strength began to fill her, as if the seeds of courage long dormant were finally taking root. What must I do? She asked. The woman smiled, a sad but hopeful smile. You must reveal the truth. You must go to Rome. There are still those who serve the true light, hidden within the shadows. They will help you. But beware, the path will be dangerous. The forces against you are powerful and relentless. Isabella nodded slowly. She felt the weight of the task before her, but also a strange peace. Her whole life had been preparing her for this, though she had never known it. Taking the woman's hand, she rose to her feet. Together, they disappeared deeper into the forest, heading toward a future uncertain and fraught with peril, but also filled with the promise of redemption. Behind them, the bells of St. Benedict's convent tolled in the night, a hollow, mournful sound, as if mourning the loss of innocence, or perhaps warning of the battle to come. Sister Isabella did not look back. She walked into the darkness, carrying with her the fragile hope of salvation, ready to face whatever awaited her.